Are you one of the thousands of people who knows that you should be email marketing, but you don't really know what that even means, how to start, and so you just never do it? Well, today's episode's for you. We're giving free consulting to my co-host today, right here, right now. It's On Air Brands.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the On Air Brand Show. I am Todd Genetasio, along with my co-host Amber Furman, who just sent out a great email to her list about 10 minutes ago before we got on the air. Amber, what's going on?
What's up, man? So let me just start by saying that the answer to your question is yes. Yes, I know I should do all the things, and I don't know how to do any of them. So I am really excited for this episode. And I kind of feel like I'm just going to make a career out of this, of showing up to people's events and podcasts saying, hey, can you just use me as what not to do for your topic? And then it's like, you know, I get to be of service by showing people what they shouldn't do. I mean, I have enough of what I should do too, don't get me wrong, but I have a lot of what you shouldn't do examples.
The guinea pig growth strategy, right? You know, like
yes.
Put me on display for the world to see and everyone can learn from.
I'm good with that.
That's, you know, basically that's what happened. So we were on a Zoom earlier this morning, unrelated to the show. It's just talking about your email marketing and stuff like that. And as we started getting into it, I was like, you know what, let's make this the episode today, because we started talking about like you just signed up for active campaigns. So we're like, okay, what are lists and tags and automations and broadcasts and how do I organize people, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you know what, this sounds like a great topic for the show today. So let's bump the timeline and sneak this one in and let's do it live.
Yeah, I love this idea because, you know, like I mentioned to you, I, like so many other people out there, have all the amazing content and all of the things to share. I have the YouTube channel that has over 100 videos. I have the podcast with over 200 episodes. I have the Facebook group. I have the coaching programs. I have all the things, and nobody knows about them.
Yeah. And it's time to connect those dots. And what's funny is you're doing all the hard work that there's people in two buckets, right? There's people who are like, well, I need to be promoting my business or whatever, but that means I need to create content and I don't know how to create content and blah, 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 blah. And then there's other people like you who have all this gold buried in them there hills, right? But you're not getting it out there. So it's like you've done all the hard work. Now we just got to push a couple extra buttons so that we can get it out to the world.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, can we get some like Beverly Hillbillies, like background music for this?
A little banjo action.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's where this needs to go. No, I'm really excited because you said something to me when we were talking. And even now, as I'm going to repeat it, it makes my stomach drop a little bit because it shouldn't be like this. But you were like, yeah, if you were explaining tags and lists to me, and you said, like, for example, if you want to email all your podcast subscribers, and I was like, if I wanted to email all my podcast subscribers, I have no way to do that right now. Like, I go to each person that I know has ever listened to my podcast and say, yo, what's up?
Right. Yeah. You'd be texting people.
I know, man. So I'm excited.
So, yeah. It's super cool. And so why, you know, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but like, why is email marketing so important? And let me just give a quick rundown. I didn't do the research in between our calls today to get any statistics. So, you know, just trust me on this, and we can find research. If you have questions and want some hard data, shoot me a message and I'm happy to provide it for you later on. But, you know, people, if you post something on social media and look, again, email and social and all these different things, it's not this or that. It's not either or, it's and, right? And so you have a new podcast episode come out, you publish it into Apple, you publish it into Anchor, Apple, Spotify, et cetera. And so at that point, the people who follow now, right, in Apple, it's called follow, or subscribe to your show on the platform, it will be in their feed. But what about the people who are not who have not hit that subscribe button yet, but they're trying to keep up with what it is that you're doing, what your business is putting out, and making sure people see everything is really the need for, you know, I like to pick one social channel and email. So it's like, new episodes out. Let me share this on social media. Hey, new episode alert. Check it out. Here's a link. Then you head over to your email platform, pop open a new campaign, new episodes out, make sure you check it out. Here's why you should listen. And even though people are also like subscribing in the feed, it's another nudge to just stay in front of them and give them a reason. And if you're in their inbox, you can kind of give them a little pitch on listening to the episode, right? As opposed to just when it's in the feed, there's just the title, and like oftentimes it's a cut off title. And so as I'm scrolling through my, latest episodes list in the app, if something gets added into the queue is based on like 9 characters, right? Like, and how much of that did it appeal to me to click on and learn more, or to add it to my queue right away, right? So email gives you another chance to like remind people why this is a good episode to listen to, and to nudge them and just make sure they know it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really cool because there's this transition that most people go through. And this has definitely been the story for me, where you start off with this and you're so hesitant to share your stuff because you don't want to be like that person, right? Like you see people all the time that have their stuff out. And I remember thinking like, if people want to find me, they will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I created and they'll find me. You guys know that I'm a huge Friends fan. We've had this conversation
Yes, we've
multiple
gone through
times.
this. Yes.
And there's an episode of Friends where Ross is on a date with someone and she turns out to be awful. And he says, I'll call you. And she's like, well, don't you need my number? And he's like, if it's meant to be, I'll guess it. And I feel like that's what I'm doing to my people. Like I have all this amazing stuff out there. And if it's meant to be, like they'll just guess where to find it.
They'll guess your phone number. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, as we've talked about, I'm not a Friends fan. I have not seen that. That's maybe the first and only funny thing I've heard come from the show. But putting all that aside, that is pretty funny and very accurate. Like, they're not on the lookout. Like, think about how many things you're doing throughout the day. People are not proactively searching out stuff until they're triggered to do so with a trigger event, right? And we'll actually get into that with some email marketing stuff, because that's where automations come into play, make your life a lot easier. But just to tie a little bow on email versus social versus platform feed is that it's not this or that. It's not either or. It's, yes, post it on social, post it on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're at, post it, and also send out an email to your subscribers, right? Because social feeds, organically, the algorithm is not going to show everything to everyone. And so inbox, your email inbox is going to at least be in their inbox. Whether or not they open it, that's up to the relationship you build with them. And when they see your name and the subject line, but it will actually get in front of them, 99% of the time.
So let me ask you this, because this is, before I found the amazingness that is Todd, I was told that your email had to be pretty and that you had to spend time with your newsletter with like pretty little picture headers and this format. And I actually had one marketing person give me a worksheet that I should fill out for every newsletter that had different things. And I'm like, God, this is a lot of work. And then Ted told me that I could Ted.
Oh,
Jesus.
boy.
Todd told me that I could literally just put words on paper and hit send. And I thought, man. So now my question is how much is too much?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is great. And this is a huge, it's not even a debate, because the data tells the answers that personal looking emails that are text-based outperform designed and branded stuff to the moon. It's not even close when you look at, studies and research. But there is a time and place. Like if you have literally a monthly newsletter, if you think old school, printed newsletter type of thing that needs to have a layout to it, like you're sending a curated list with a bunch of different articles, maybe, if you do that on a monthly basis, that's fine. I'm not against that. And that kind of stuff is good for your company or your brand. But really where I come from with all the marketing stuff is, how do we create and deepen relationships with people? And if you send an email from podcast@morethancorporate.com, and it's all these fancy designs with some super professional photos that are probably stock pictures and all this stuff, it's that's not what that's not the same as getting that text message that's yo, Todd, my new episode's out, go listen to it, right? And so I look at how can we use these communication tools to build relationships at scale, and the email address, the email name, the design, those things all come into play. When we send out emails to people for ourselves and for clients. I had this conversation with a client the other day, like subject lines, like the getting your email opened. It relies on when someone sees it in the inbox. Yeah, subject line. That's what everybody talks about. But the other thing is the from name. Like if I know, like if I get an email from Amber, I'm going to open it up because we have a relationship. So how can we do that at scale? So it's like, first and foremost, make sure it's coming from a person and build that relationship, because your name alone plays a part in who gets open. Like, honestly, regardless of the subject line, if I get an email from Amber, I'm going to open it up. And so that shows, not that subject lines aren't important, but the relationship that we have with people. It's like, what's the best subject line? It's like, well, I don't know. What was the last subject line, the email that your wife sent to you? It's like, well, it didn't matter what it was, because that's a person I have a deep relationship with, and I'm opening everything they send me. So if you take that approach first, like now all of a sudden that's a whole different ballgame. Now, when it does come to subject lines, again, like testing, all this comes with the caveat: test everything. Every business, audience, brand, everything is different. But when we talk about subject lines, like the best subject lines are the ones that you use when you send them to people you already have a relationship with. Like when I send an email out to my list and the subject line is like next Friday, way more people open it than if I put together some like cleverly written subject line that's supposed to be super cool and intriguing, right? It's like, why? Because when people get an email from a person that says next Friday, they're like, oh, I need to open this and see what's inside. As opposed to like, oh, this is clearly a marketing email and I'm not going to pay attention. I don't need to open it up, right?
Yeah. And this conversation is so much of a continuation of the event that I recently went to in Dallas, where we were talking about building that one-on-one connection. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys there actually said that whenever he goes to write copy, whenever he goes to write emails, whenever he writes anything from a social media post to an email, in his head, he actually says like, hey, Todd, and then writes his email.
Yeah.
Like, so that you don't end up saying, hey, everybody, like, nice to meet you. Like it's, you are talking to one particular person. Yeah. And I had never thought about it like that. Like how many emails do you get? Because we talk about this in speaking all the time, right? Where you can talk to 50 or 100 people, and yet you have that person that comes up to you and says, I felt like you were talking just to me.
Yeah.
And that art of talking to 100 people at a time and one person at the same time. And I'm finding, I just never thought of email being the same way.
Yeah. It's the same thing as any kind of sales and marketing stuff. And you can't communicate to everyone. You have to communicate to someone. And when you take that approach, and what's funny is in one of my presentations, I have two pictures that say what people think and feel like when they're sending an email. And it's like on stage with a huge stadium of people that are experiencing this all at once. And then it's like, but what the person receiving it is like, and it's like, I'm sitting alone in my office here and I opened it on my phone or on my computer. And it's like, we think we're sending this mass communication to this huge group of people that are all sitting together. And they're like, oh, clearly this is meant for all of us. And it's like, no, dude, someone opened that up as they're experiencing your email on an individual level as something that they got personally, and treat it that way if you want it to work well.
Yeah. And what's popping in my head right now, just as I think about in the past, wondering what was too much or what was too little, or how often should I communicate? Mm-hmm. When you say like, treat it like a personal email, you're protecting that relationship. Like if you treat this like, I have something to say to you and it's valuable, and so I'm going to say it, mm-hmm. then this becomes a more valuable relationship than Todd told me I have to send an email out once a week and I don't know what to say. So Common Core math.
Yeah. And the not know what to say thing is so funny that you have like, it's something that hits you hard, except for that you put out 2 podcast episodes every week. So that's exactly what you say. It's just, hey, new episodes up. Here's what we're talking about this week. And, here's the link. And so you don't even have to come up with what to say because it's all built into your plan already. So for our listeners who have a show, that you're doing the heavy work. You already know what to say. You don't have to think about it, right? You don't have to come up with that stuff. It's like, let's just take that extra step and make sure we're getting in front of people in a different channel and communicating with them.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I know there are other people out there who have felt this way as well, but I get caught in that novelty circle of, I said this on the podcast, I can't say it in the email,
Right.
which I know is completely, like, I know from a mindset side of things that the more ways you say things and the more ways people have the opportunity to take them in, how do you make them feel a certain way? They read it, they hear it,
Yeah.
so I understand that. But then when I sit down to write the email, it would be like, well, I said this in the podcast, why would anybody want to hear this again?
Right.
So it's really interesting that you said that, because you're right. I should never have an I don't know what to say.
Right. And even, this is where I also say mixing it up. And as a sports analogy, I always say, like, if you have, the best running back in the league, like there was a period, the Minnesota Vikings had Adrian Peterson, who's just like dominated the league, best running back, hands down. But like they didn't win a Super Bowl, is because they didn't have all the other pieces. So it's like all the defense had to do was stack up the box. And it's like, well, if they hand it off, we know what's coming every time. Where we need to come from a communication standpoint with email and all marketing is to keep things mixed up, right? So I say that because some of your emails can say, hey, Amber, new episode this week. We're talking about email marketing for podcasts. So if you feel like you're stuck, you're not sending emails enough, it's something you should be doing, click here and listen now, right? Boom. That's it. Super simple, short, new episode. Then we can also send a different type of email that's much more content in the email, where it's like, hey, Amber, this week's episode, we talk about email marketing for podcasters, and we cover a bunch of different tips. Here's a couple tips we talked about in the actual episode. Make sure you're sending stuff from your own name. Try to use personal text emails as opposed to fancy design. Make sure you're building a relationship and use this to communicate with individual people. If you want more tips, you can click here, right? So now we're testing out like just straight up new episode alert. Here's the topic, click here to listen. And then we're sending out email that's like valuable content right within the email. And so there's a mix of all different types of messages that you can send out, so that people, when they see your email, they don't see your email in the inbox and think, I know what's inside, I don't have to open it, because you want to keep them on their toes. They're like, oh, there's just another link to the episode. I'll check it out later when I want to. But if you keep enough intrigue and differentiation on a regular basis, they'll feel more compelled to open it. So mixing up the not style, but different types of messages that you're sending is another good way to make sure you're continuing to get people opening the emails and you're adding value to their inbox.
I love it. There's something else that you had said to me a little while back that I think is really valuable, especially on cultivating and strengthening those relationships. And that what I feel like marketing makes really smart people do really dumb things. Because like I have a law degree, I should be able to figure this out, right? But when you told me that you put at the bottom of your emails a call to action to reply with something, I was like, holy crap, email's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Like email works both ways, right?
Yep.
And then I start, what's popping in my head right now is we're talking about this is how many times do you send an important email, which if what you're saying to your customers is being said, it should be important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to assume that everything that's being sent out is important. How many times have you sent an important email out to somebody and been like, but hey, dude, I don't really need a response from this. So you're good. So like when you say it like that, it sounds so freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so just adding that call to action, which I forget to do sometimes, and saying, hey, reply. It's like we are all sitting here trying to figure out how to cut through the noise. How do we get people to engage with us? Well, you ask them to reply to your damn email. Yeah.
Not to mention from a technical standpoint, that will also help with your deliverability when people reply. But putting that aside, the other thing too is like, let's give a little framework example. Hey, Amber, new episodes up this week. We're talking about email marketing for podcasters. Here's the link to listen in. I'm curious, do you do your email marketing consistently, or is that something you struggle with? Hit reply and let me know. Right. Just something as simple as that. Another thing that just triggered as an idea is that when you start planning out your episodes, if you're recording episodes on Thursday, send out an email to your list on Monday and say, hey, any subject line, any podcast suggestions. Hey, Amber, I'm recording a couple new episodes later this week. And, here's, I'm thinking of doing email marketing for podcasters, how to grow your list and how to get more listeners for your show. Do you have any questions around those topics or any other questions around podcasting that you'd like to hear me answer in an upcoming episode? Hit reply and let me know. And now you're using your audience. We've talked about in previous episodes, the power of audience, but, you're deepening the relationship by showing them you care. You're active listening, proactive listening by, asking them to share with you. And it's helping feed into your actual content strategy where you're going to be creating content that people are literally asking for, as opposed to trying to make it up yourself.
Yeah, which is super powerful. I know when we talk about figuring out what business to build, we're like, the only way you're going to figure it out is if you ask your clients what their problems are. Like, and so this is really going down that same thing. Like, we make it so difficult, but finding out what they want to hear and then giving it to them.
Yeah.
It's rocket science.
Yeah, exactly. And so, a couple of things inside actual email software, like my recommendation is definitely ActiveCampaign. Shameless plug, thegrowthsuite.com/ActiveCampaign. That's my affiliate link. If anybody wants to give me credit for that, happily we'll take those couple of dollars that come along with it. But there's two things that I have listed that I want to talk about is like, one, kind of using the system to organize your contacts, right? And then secondly, like, okay, what are we actually communicating with those people? And so the organizing contacts standpoint, like in ActiveCampaign, they use lists and tags. In other systems, they use, some of them use lists and tags, some of them just tags, some of them just lists, whatever. But the strategy for organizing them is the same. And so we like to keep them in like high level buckets where there's just a handful of them. So in ActiveCampaign, those are lists. So it's like, all right, we want to have a master list, which is like just straight up everybody. And then we want to have a list of our subscribers. We want to have a list of our clients. And then maybe you have like a list of like our referral partners or something like that. But typically we want to keep like that high level organization to a minimum, like 5 at most, maybe 10, depending on your business. Then where we get into granular stuff is like the tagging stuff. And that's like, what kind of stuff are they asking for or engaging with, and all those things, like what blog post did they click on, or what lead magnets did they sign up with? And the reason this is so important, and it's very easy to set this up too. We're not going to get into screen sharing and tutorials on this, but the best marketing is messages and communication that is timely, relevant, and practical. And when you have your contacts organized, you can send them stuff that is timely, relevant, and practical.
Yeah. Here's my question. And, just an overview, because like you said, we don't have time for screen sharing and stuff.
Yeah.
How should people be collecting their email addresses for their podcast subscribers, right? So like you ask them to go to Apple and subscribe and leave a review, and that's great, but you don't actually get to collect their information that way.
Right.
So how should people be actually figuring out who they're interacting with?
Yeah. So I definitely recommend, number one, if you have a show, getting a subscribe. I mean, it could be on the homepage of your website, or it can be on a separate subscribe page. But if you check out onairbrands.com/show, you'll see what we have there. And it's just an email sign up at the top. So for one, I would always recommend sending people, when you're asking for subscribers, ask them to subscribe via email and then send them the link to subscribe in their favorite platform, because then you're capturing that communication. You can send one-on-one, right? You know who the people are and you can send them messages. When they're just subscribing in the publishing feeds, like you don't have that two-way street, like you said, right? Like email is the two-way street, and the people, you can see who they are. So I would always prefer getting an email subscriber and sending them links to the podcast versus getting podcast subscribers and going backwards.
That's awesome.
So that's the first thing. Like if you have a show, get a subscribe box on your website, like on your homepage, on a show page, as a pop-up on all your pages that just says, hey, here's our show, here's the value proposition of the show, enter your email just to sign up, and we'll send you notifications when new episodes are live. So that's the first thing, is just like the kind of general broad, like subscribe to the show. The other thing that we want to have, and like this goes back to content strategy and building your business and stuff, is like different lead magnets, right? And that's like the stuff like ebooks, guides, templates, tools, checklists, like free digital stuff you can give people in exchange for their email address. And that goes back to, one, just giving more value than like, hey, subscribe to me so I can send you my content, versus like, hey, sign up and I'm going to give you really good stuff that's going to help you on your journey to solving a problem. But then like I said, lets us organize people. So if you sign up for this doesn't exist yet, but like if you signed up for our free guide on like coming up with podcast topics, then we can send you emails about coming up with podcast topics. And those are way more helpful to you. You're going to open them. We're going to build a relationship because I'm sending you stuff that's relevant, timely, and practical based on me knowing the problem you signed up to solve is coming up with podcast topics, as opposed to if you sign up generally and then I start sending you stuff and it's like, hey, here's a bunch of content on how to sign up for a podcast, how to come up with podcast episode ideas. Well, if that's not what they signed up for, it might be irrelevant to them. And then they start tuning out. And then our brains get into this pattern of like, oh, I don't want to unsubscribe. I don't want to click the unsubscribe button from Amber's emails because I do want to see when stuff comes out. However, I am mentally unsubscribed. So when stuff comes in, I'm archiving it before I even open it, right? Because I got to keep that inbox zero tight. But it's like, but that's what it is. That inbox zero. But that's what it is. How do we attract people and get them signed up for something specific? Because then we can be more helpful to them and deepen the relationship, add more value, and follow along. And with that, now, Amber, this is also what I would say for you in your free consulting here is like you can also have like that sign up, subscribe to the podcast and enter your email address. And now what we've talked about how to organize and organize the contacts who are subscribing, right? We want to have those high level buckets and then tagging them or organizing them like based on their interests and stuff. And you can do that if they sign up for just the podcast. Tag them as podcast interest. If they sign up for a free guide to X, you tag them with that. And now you can send those people stuff and that's relevant for that. Now, when someone signs up, just let's keep it simple for everybody. You don't have to go creating lead magnets, but like an email subscription for the show, right? Like I'm signing up because I want to get emails when a new More Than Corporate podcast episode comes out. Well, when I subscribe to that, now we can use the automation factor of email marketing to deepen the relationships with our subscribers. And that's where we can say, number one, always have like a welcoming email, right? And saying like, hey, Amber, thank you so much for subscribing. I'm so grateful to have your attention. It means so much to me. If you subscribe to the More Than Corporate podcast, then I'm guessing one or more of these things describes you. And then drop a couple bullet points so that people know they're in the right place and they're getting the right stuff. And you could say, if that sounds familiar, great, you're in the right place. And then if not, feel free to unsubscribe at the link. Most of them are automatic at the bottom. Feel free to unsubscribe at the bottom because we want to just have subscribers who are interested in the stuff we're sending, right? And, the software companies make it easy for us to feel better about that because they charge per contacts. So it's like, let's scrub out people who are not interested. But we get them in that welcome series. We make sure they're in the right place. We give them some value up front, confirm, hey, this is where you should be. This is your people, right? Like Seth Godin always says, like, people like us do stuff like this. So we want to reassure them, people like you do things like this. Welcoming in there. And then you can have a drip campaign. And I'll even put this as like, if you're launching a new show, or even if you've had 200 plus episodes and it's time to kind of revamp this part of it, have like 4 or 5 foundational topic episodes, right? So if you're launching your show, it's just your first 5 episodes. If you're 200 deep, reestablish like, hey, here are the core fundamental topics that we talk about. These are our pillar topics, so to speak. And that's, do 4 or 5 episodes on one on each of those different pillars. And so now when someone signs up, they get welcomed. And then you tell them, you're in the right place. Here's what you can expect. New episodes come out every week or twice a week or whatever. And I'll let you know about those. Also, over the next week or so, I'm going to send you out our best episodes that are most relevant to you since you subscribed, right? And so watch out, because tomorrow's email, and now here we're setting expectations. We're telling their brain to pay attention to what's coming, more likely to get opened. We say, watch out for tomorrow's email. I'm going to send you episode number 1, where I talk about like the real fill in the blank of value that they're going to get from listening. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So guess what? Now you say, in the system, automatically wait 24 hours, send them this email. And then that episode, hey, Amber, thanks again so much for subscribing. Yesterday, I welcomed you into the community, so you know what's coming. And I told you, this is episode number 1, where I really talk about why I started More Than Corporate and why, more importantly, why that matters for you and what you're going to get out of listening to this show. Here's a couple of great pieces that are in this episode. Click here to listen to episode 1 and make sure that you're subscribed in your favorite platform. Right.
That's awesome. And what's really screaming at me right now is the conversations that we have all the time on this show about needing to be intentional with what you do and how you do it. And I don't remember what episode it was, but Todd is normally like this Rolodex of podcast episodes. So
I don't know if I have it off the top of my head here.
No, there was an episode where we were talking about The purpose of being able to plan out your episodes and then keep track of content to be able to reference back easily to that.
Yeah.
And this is where it becomes extremely beneficial for you to do that. So I'm just going to throw out there, because there's me, that my executive assistant is learning that organization is not my strong suit. And I'm extremely intentional about the episodes that I post. And then my tracking and organization isn't amazing. So being able to start now, right?
Mhm.
Starting where you're at now is better than not starting at all.
Yep.
And start to track those and start to figure out, how can I easily link this into a particular topic and have those handy. And this just becomes a powerhouse. We talk all the time about business and podcast and how they work together and how they can support your success. But when you break it down like this for marketing, it just becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, like if you have, if you are a podcaster and you want to get started with email marketing, like you have everything you need. It's just a matter of like copying and pasting it into the email system, right? So Amber, for you, this is, send this over to your assistant to get this stuff set up. But this is what I would love to see, is that on the website, we get an email sign up box, and that connects to your active campaign. So people sign up, they get added to the list of subscribers, and they get tagged as podcast subscriber, right? When they sign up, they get right away, they get a welcome email that does what we just talked about. Now, I'd like to see an automated drip sequence that goes out over the course of about like 2 or 3 weeks. And it is the welcome series, right? So pick a handful of episodes, 3 to 5 episodes that are like cornerstone episodes for the stuff you talk about. Maybe these are maybe these are solo episodes, right? So pick a couple cornerstone episodes, and they get the welcome email. And then either every day or every other day, they get dripped out episode, pillar episode 1, pillar episode 2, pillar episode 3, right? Pick 3 to 5 episodes that you want to call your cornerstone episodes. Drip those out and tell them these are the foundational episodes. Then after that, we're going to drip out your best content, right? So this is where you can, and I got a little bonus tip specifically for you here, Amber, that you're going to like. But the next drip sequence, so we have our welcome. We have at least 3 automated. So we got 4 emails. If we do that every other day, that's eight days of emails that are going to go out to these people. And then we're going to put them into a best content series. So this is where you can either choose however you want. If it's by downloads, if it's by guest feedback, or listener feedback, or whatever. But pick another 3 to 5 best episodes that you want to share with people. Right. And in your case specifically, I'd say make those cornerstone episodes solo episodes. Now make these best content ones, make them maybe your interview episodes, except for one. So this is where you have the power of proactively promoting episodes. Now, what is, I believe, your most listened to, most downloaded episode? Tell us what it is.
It's my solo episode where my mic was off.
Correct.
Yeah.
And people love the episode. You hate it because you recorded with the wrong microphone by accident.
It was awful.
And it was awful.
I don't know why people listen.
They loved it. You re-recorded the same exact episode so that it sounded better quality, and nobody listened to it.
Nobody.
But if someone subscribes via email and you say, this is my most downloaded episode topic, I re-recorded it in higher quality for you. Here's the link. The one they listen to now is going to be the high quality one that you recorded and not the one with the microphone off. So now we can say, here's our best content. This is my highest downloaded episode ever. I re-recorded it in higher quality because it was one of my first ones and I made a mistake. Blah, blah. Sharing that vulnerability and silliness is also going to create a deeper relationship with your audience. So that's an extra bonus when you can do that kind of stuff. So now your welcome email, you got 3 to 5 cornerstone episodes. Number 1, my favorite, best listener feedback, highest downloaded episode was this one talking about, it was the Brene Brown. I forget the topic exactly. And fun story, ironically, about the topic of her, because she's like the vulnerability queen, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I accidentally recorded that episode with the microphone off and it sounded terrible. And I can't believe it. I was so embarrassed. And of course that's my top listen one, but just for you, I re-recorded it with higher quality. So here's the link to the high quality one that you can click and listen to right now. Boom. That's your first one in the best content. And then pick a couple more of your either top downloaded or, your favorite episodes, whatever, and drip it out. So now you have essentially probably 3 weeks worth of automated stuff. So now you set this up once and you already have the episodes. So you're not even creating anything new. Your assistant can take these and put them in. I just recommend you should probably write the welcome email But now you just you have everything sitting there in your business already, and you put the email subscribe button up on the website. Now you have 3 weeks of dripped out content that's going to indoctrinate these new subscribers. It's going to create that relationship. It's going to add value because you're giving them the best stuff up front, right? And that's really going to create that relationship out of the gate automatically. You've already created all the content and you just need to put it into the system. And now you have this customer journey flow to attract, build an audience, and really create a solid engagement and relationship with people, so that now in 21 days, they go into what we call your broadcast list. So now every time you have a new episode, you do 2 a week. So you could pick if you wanted to send one for each or just do a weekly, like, hey, here's this week's 2 episodes. Either one of those work. That's something you definitely could give to your assistant as an easy task for them to do when it's just like notification email style like that. And people are going to be paying attention because they went through your best stuff first. You've given them the path of like, here's how to think about these episodes and here's the stuff we're talking about. And now, of course, you have your coaching programs. You have this huge event coming up in a couple of weeks. So when you have stuff that you want to promote, you have your book club that you want to promote. You've got people that don't sign up for the list. And then you're like, hey, I have an event next week. Here, go buy your ticket. It's like, dude, these people already went through 21 days of high value, relevant stuff, right? It's relevant because they specifically signed up for this topic and they stuck around for it because we guided them through it. And there you go. That's how you build and nurture your engaged audience.
Yeah. So that idea of guinea pig marketing, I'm regretting my life choices right now. This is like, no, this is a love-hate relationship because first of all, for everybody listening, you're welcome. And for me, Todd, your check's in the mail.
Yeah.
As far as doing this, like, I'm really excited to implement it. And I'm really glad that this is publicly available because like I can't process the amazing awesomeness that you just said in my brain right now. The downfall though to having somebody give you such great advice when they're on your email list is like the accountability factor is like tenfold because Todd is always like the first person to open my emails. And I'm sure it has something to do with like, I'm pretty sure only psychopaths are like inbox zero. Like I don't know any normal person who can keep 0 emails in their inbox.
I'm going to give you a little tip. When I decided to do this, I did it's not this simple. You do have to do a little bit of extra, like a little tool trick. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was basically select all, archive all, inbox 0, done. And then it was like, okay, now I'm just going to maintain this, right? So that's,
it's so bad for me to say this because if you're my client, plug your ears like little kids, earmuffs, right? But if I haven't responded to it and it's 60 days old, it's probably not that important to begin with. And I might as well not waste my time. Like if a client needed to get a hold of me, like they know nothing in my email.
They'll guess your phone number if they need to.
Yeah, they'll guess it. I mean, you know what? And that's how I'm going to fill this event in 2 weeks. People will just guess where it is. So yeah, I need to like print that out like in a meme and like tape it everywhere to remind myself that people don't get to, oh, Jesus, Rob. I'm so
got a little
sorry.
Private chat. Wow, Rob's got 14,000 unread
messages.
Emails. Wow. Whew.
I'm so sorry. I completely lost my train of thought because I'm not even that bad. I think I have 3,000 unread.
Yeah. I mean, once you have 100, you might as well have 14,000 if you ask me.
So yeah. But I am going to recreate that friend scene in a meme and post it everywhere I can see it. Like if your business is going to be successful, people will just guess it.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this event that you have coming up. Are there seats available?
There are.
Well, give us what's the value prop? Who is this for? What are you talking about? Who should be attending this?
This is for business owners who want to reach that next level, business owners and entrepreneurs who want to reach that next level of success. I have 8 fantastic speakers coming into Las Vegas. We're going to talk about community creation. We're going to talk about prospecting. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about health and time management. And it's 3 packed days of unbelievable resources that will help you take your life and business to the next level of success. It's in Las Vegas. I've got some killer activities planned. It's all inclusive. You're going to meet some great people. Like everybody needs to be here.
Yeah, I love it. And where can they get more details and sign up if they're interested?
You can go to DYL, so it's called Design Your Life. So DYL.successdevelopmentsolutions.net.
Boom. There we go. All right. So, and if you guys want to, I would actually encourage you, go over to morethancorporate.com. We're putting Amber on the hook. Make sure you get an email subscription box up there ASAP. So our listeners who are tuning in can go over and subscribe via email to your list and your show. And yeah, you are publicly on the hook here for welcome email, cornerstone content, automated sequence, and best content series. And I would also encourage everyone who's listening, if you do have a show, you should do exactly the same thing. That is a great and easy way to take all the content you already have and turn it into an automated email marketing plan that is set it and forget it. If you want more advice or more content around creating a show and all the marketing for your business around content, go to onairbrands.com/show. That's where you can sign up for our email list for this show. You can subscribe via all the cool channels out there, regardless of the platform you like to listen to. And we will catch you guys on the next episode.